And we have a guest who's in just as much demand from all these networks as these sports leagues. Make some noise for our guy, CT, Chris Trapasso. How we doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Sorry I couldn't join you guys in studio, but hopefully after the draft and when we get to, I guess, kind of the lull for the Bills, but what hopefully will be like the second round for the Sabres, I can get back in studio with you guys.
So I want to get into kind of a little myriad of everything real quick before we get into the Bills. I know you are still a Sabres guy. What's your key for game 3 based on what you've seen?
I think they just have to be more crisp. Like this was a team that since mid-December, early December, like the passing, the power play passing, the coming out of their own zone to be tape to tape. It hasn't felt like that for like 95% of those first 2 games. Win game 1, they mount that late game surge in game 2 last night. I think if they just play their game and we see better, more crisp passing and not pucks in the skates, more pucks on the sticks, I think the Sabres win these next 2 games running away with it.
Wow. Okay.
More running away. That's what I'm talking about, Chris.
Moving in the right direction. He gets it. Speaking of moving in the right direction, obviously the Joe Brady era is, I would say, officially underway with players in the building. It seems like a lot of VIPs. How much are you looking into? Like, there's state media essentially coming out for the Bills. And I know you're a one Bills live guy, so I'm not trying to ruin you there. But like, how much do you look into the 2-minute montages that come out? Because Slick and I were watching, and we're like, oh, CJ Gardner-Johnson like leading some of the DBs and things like that. How much are you looking into those little snippets that you see and these little early blurbs that you're getting out of these practices?
First off, I got to say one more thing about the Sabres. I love that Maniac's voice is still hoarse from game 1. Like, that is a true sign of how insane that game was.
I just tried to talk, and literally a squeal just came out. It's like a snicker at me over here.
Yeah, he wasn't even screaming that much last night either. This is all game 1 in that voice there.
In the Sabres of it all, we got someone saying start Ryan. I think we should get your opinion on that too, because the goalie thing last night was a thing. It's the biggest topic today. How do you feel with that guy between the pipes?
I guess that typically you don't see goalie changes as very frequently in the playoffs. I felt like Lyon and UPL throughout the regular season were about equal. Lyon's older, has a little bit more experience, and just I think he has more confidence only because UPL's confidence seems to be pretty shot at this point. Like, a lot of soft goals last night. I would be more comfortable with Alex Lyon, the guy that's in his mid-30s, to start game 3.
All right. Sounds like we're all in agreement. So.
Yeah, I think you need to steady the boat. The Sabres have been very unsteady, whether it's the passing, whether it's the goaltending, like you said, Chris. So anyway, we could steady the operation. Most looking to do so. So speaking of the operation, the Joe Brady operation, how much are you looking into what you're getting out of One Bills Drive right now?
I mean, I don't really look into those hype videos too much of where the guys are just running around in shorts, but I do think that your mention of CJ Gardner-Johnson is a good one. Was just seeing right before I came on that he's like going on this like kind of wild Twitter rant right now about being like anti-Philly when he was there. I love it because that's not the type of player that the Bills ever would have signed in the Sean McDermott era. 100%. So to see that exact player leading those DB meetings, and has Josh Allen and Dawson Knox all looking at him when he's pointing at something on the field. That's more of just trying to pick up what's between the lines necessarily more than like just seeing the players pushing sleds without pads on right now.
You're right. In the McDermott portfolio, they only wanted blue chip stocks, and CJ Gardner-Johnson is more of a crypto for sure. He definitely got some boomer bang potential, which is what we're going to see in this NFL draft. So going into it, Chris, you've obviously done the research. Make sure you're following folks, Chris Trapasso, all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. The golf breakdowns, I'm sure, are coming this season as well. But with that really said, what do you see as the priorities for the Bills? What needs to be attacked early and maybe a must in those first 100 picks?
Certainly the pass rush. Even after signing Bradley Chubb, I still think a young, cheaper edge rusher that's in the Jim Leonard mold, smaller, bursty, bendy, Von Miller type player that they really did not have in the Sean McDermott era as well. They always had the bigger, longer run defenders. I don't really care about that. I want someone that can get after the quarterback in under 2 seconds on a regular basis. probably along the defensive line as well on the interior. Although I don't think run defense is something that you need to prioritize in round one necessarily. There are a lot of big hulking defensive tackles available later in the draft. And I am not exactly Jeremy White, but I am always on board with adding more firepower at wide receiver, even after trading for DJ Moore.
That was my next question, actually. I was going to say, what's your take on the wide receiver room? Obviously, the big addition, DJ Moore, but do they need to look at wide receivers in this draft? And if so, do you have some that you like?
So you mentioned him earlier, Slick. Casey Concepcion is my favorite idea for the Bills. It feels like he's going to be picked right in that mid-20 to maybe 26 range, where if he's on the clock, I do not care who else is available. I think the Bills should pick him. Like, he would be my primo A-plus pick for them at 26. I don't know if he'll be there, and typically the Bills aren't picking my favorite player in the first round, but even if they go D-tackle or if they go edge at 26, at 91, that third rounder, I think wide receiver needs to be near the top of the priority list. And that would then mean moving off of Keon Coleman. That would be an addition by subtraction situation. I've just never been high on Coleman whatsoever. And I feel like if they do use one of their first three picks, they have 26, 91, and then like in the mid 120s in round 4. If they pick another wide receiver there, and I think they very well could, you have to think about, all right, with Shakir and Moore, Josh Palmer coming back, this pick, you have to move off of Keon Coleman so that's not a distraction, so you're not force-feeding him targets, because he would be 4th or 5th on the pecking order anyway in terms of getting targets in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, it seems like he's getting there anyway. I know Bunt was also high on Casey Concepcion.
Bunt's a big Casey Concepcion guy. Why I'm a big Casey Concepcion guy is that Casey has been our biggest rival, our biggest thorn in our side during this whole side. So drafting a guy named Casey, that's like when they got the blood from Harry Potter so they could rebuild Voldemort. That's the blood by which we are going to build our Lombardi trophy for certain. But Chris, we know that as Buffalo fans, it's just as important what our rivals do, what our competitors do in the draft. We saw that 2 years ago with Xavier Worthy. I mean, geez, people lost their minds in all of it. So I think the two focuses for Bills fans at this point in time would be New England and KC. For sure. So what should fans maybe be on the lookout for? What are you anticipating out of those teams? What would be the worst case scenario for Buffalo fans on the NE or the New England KC side of things?
Well, I'll start with KC because it is strange to see the Chiefs with the top 10 pick. It's like easy to forget that they ultimately went 6-11 last year to get that number 9 overall pick. I think the worst case scenario for the Bills when it comes to the Chiefs would be if they got one of the top tier wide receivers for Patrick Mahomes, because for as much as they might go offensive line and that's not been good, they need edge rushers. If you get Carnell Tate or Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson and Patrick Mahomes has an elite wide receiver again, now it certainly won't be Tyreek Hill and it will take time for that receiver to mature, but I think that would not be very fun. And then and then New England after Kansas City, picking obviously way later after the Bills, more offensive tackle help, because we saw in the Super Bowl, it wasn't just the short arms of Will Campbell that were letting down Drake May, but the other side of the line, they had Morgan Moses, who was picked in the 2014 draft at right tackle. They need more help there. So if they land and ultimately get a really good offensive tackle for year 3 of Drake May, that would probably be, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but that's what Bills fans should be rooting against. Chiefs, wide receiver at 9, and then the Patriots to get a really quality offensive tackle with their selection in round 1.
All right, folks, you know what to root against as far as our competitors, but if you're looking for amazing memorabilia at the best deals, always insist on our friends at TSE Buffalo. Check them out on all socials at TSE Buffalo. They got mini signed helmets and all kinds of Buffalo Bills auctions running right now. Go to billsbids.com, sabresbids.com to check out all the TSE action. Speaking of the action, Chris, though, obviously the NFL draft is like literally one of the crazier products in the modern media day. You have Goodell, the spectacle of it all, the tunnel they walk through now with everything, the way it's evolved. I mean, now you have a room with like the top like 20 prospects. As we saw, Hairston was like a big storyline from last year was Hairston was like high-fiving everyone when they got picked. And they're like, oh, what a good guy this is. What are your thoughts on the modern day product that is the NFL draft? And I'm curious, because I think you take a lot of you're excited about, like, this is a Christmas for you. I say that not trying to frame you in. what would you tinker with if they gave you the reins for a round? What would you toy around with? What would you maybe change? And what parts of it do you like most?
All right. Because what you just said is absolutely spot on. This is something very detailed that bugs me, and I almost put it on mute sometimes. I hate when, whether it's Daniel Jeremiah, whatever network you're listening to, Mel Kiper, when they are definitely getting the pick tipped in their ear, but they haven't announced it yet. They haven't gone to Goodell on the stage in the first round. And they even do this in the second and third and fourth rounds too. And then you'll hear the analyst on set say, "Oh man, I really think the Bills should maybe go with an explosive corner who's from Kentucky. That would be the best pick for them." And then it's Maxwell Hairston. That really bugs me when I know that they're getting it in their ear beforehand. And that would lead me to not necessarily the viewing experience being bad, but highly recommend staying off Twitter. Don't be ahead by 3 or 4 tip picks. Watch it live. It's one of the last non-sporting events, like an actual game, that we actually need to watch live to ultimately see the results. So I'm kind of an old school guy that I like to just either have it on mute so we don't get the tip picks on the broadcast, and I certainly don't check anything on social media.
I think what you just said, and as the youngins would say, raw dogging these drafts. That's the way to go in the modern day, plain and simple.
Big
Better
time,
experience.
Sure. They know a lot about that.
Stay
Pittsburgh.
safe, but we're raw dog.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Okay. Well, with that said, obviously, with the anticipation for the draft, we're here with Chris Trapasso, our guru on all things. Plus, make sure, of course, you're checking out the wife's Etsy store. She's still making that rocking and rolling. With that said, don't laugh. Why are you laughing, Dad? Listen, we support Etsy stores over here.
Yeah, we got one. Yeah,
we got one too.
I wasn't laughing at that. I wasn't.
With
the
that
sight of
said,
tongue. Yeah.
We're talking about excitement. We're talking about big, boom, bang prospects. Who is the prospect who could maybe go, top 20, but also might not go to round 3? And then on that note, what is the latest and what's going on with my guy, Uar Bernard?
Okay, so that player is probably Jermod McCoy, the cornerback from Tennessee. Last year, Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, who actually has some ties to Buffalo, I believe his aunt and uncle lived in Buffalo, was a believed to be top 10 overall pick. Didn't go until the second round because of a knee injury. Jermod McCoy tore his ACL in 24, but there was a report, and who knows if it's a smokescreen or not, that some teams see the knee as a degenerative issue. He could fall, or he could be the number 11 overall pick to the Dolphins. That's probably the guy that has the biggest range of outcomes in this draft. That is really a top tier prospect on the field. In terms of Bernard, he is this freaky specimen from Nigeria, has not played football. I think he'll get drafted just because at 6'4" and 300 pounds, he looks like a linebacker. He has a 12 pack and looks like a Greek sculpture. So he's someone that I will 6th or 7th round. I won't be surprised if he's ultimately drafted. He kind of looks like Slick when he takes his shirt off there down at Sunset Beach.
When they get the 9th through 12th abs are absolutely scary to me. I could take an 8-pack, but what you're saying, when you see that 12-pack, it's dude, come on right now. Absolutely physical specimen. And Chris, I'm not making this up. I'm just reading those. It could potentially be he could potentially be drafted in the 5th and a full first year stash potentially.
Yeah, I mean, think about the Bills just a few years ago. Travis Clayton from London, who was a rugby guy, but just tested absolutely through the roof. And it wasn't he might, be an undrafted free agent that makes the team out of rookie minicamp. They drafted him. So there are more teams understanding that for as much certainly skill that goes into the NFL, it's very much a athleticism, size, length, physicality game. And if you get good coaching, you can get a quality player like a Jordan Mailata of the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a rugby player from Australia, 7th rounder, and has become one of the best left tackles in the league.
Seriously, you never know what you'll get. The draft is like a box of chocolates, boys. So let's make sure we are ready for that road. Huge shout out to Chris Trapasso for joining us. So before we let you go, we've been having some fun with the Vrabel situation the last couple weeks. Obviously, we don't want any we don't want anyone necessarily to lose their jobs or whatever. Just curious, your take on the Vrabel situation of it all, how it's been handled by legacy media, which seems to be very quiet. Because, there's probably a lot of similar situations. I'm not saying exactly similar, but it's a lot of similar quid pro quos across the league. I'm curious about your thought and your perspective and takeaways from what you've seen on that situation.
Beyond all the hilarious memes, like the For You page on my Twitter is just absolutely hilarious. I don't really go on that tab very much, but when that was going on, like there were so many funny memes and like clips that applied from like Always Sunny in Philadelphia and so many movies that I just thought were hilarious. Beyond that, what I think is interesting, I agree with you about like the legacy media has not covered it nearly to the length that they should. I wonder if there is more to this in terms of like ramifications for the Patriots. Like, was Mike Vrabel using Diana Rossini to like orchestrate moves and drum up interest in this AJ Brown trade and any other moves that have been involved with the Patriots the last couple of years? If you do a deep enough dive down the rabbit hole, you can see that there was a lot of nuggets that Rossini had about the Patriots or not involving the Patriots. I wonder if this is not just like, hey, a GM calls Diana Rossini or calls Adam Schefter and says, we're going to trade for LaShawn McCoy, but was really trying to almost tamper in a way when these things were not actually true, but we're trying to drum up interest. I wonder if there's anything that the NFL should ultimately look into with this, but the fact that it's been pretty quiet on the NFL front makes it seem like that won't ultimately happen.
They'll probably look into it and find nothing. That's the Patriot way that we know and love.
Yeah, get the broom, sweep under the rug. The only thing I'm hoping, and this sounds ridiculous, is that the clips are, like you kind of said, Chris, are just coming out so quickly in real time from like 3 years ago where there were guys where they haven't been able to get out in front of it yet. So maybe there's still like something bigger looming, but that would make sense to me because the way that it's being covered the rest of the way just doesn't seem to make sense, doesn't seem to add up. But things always do add up when we have our guy CT on. A huge shout out to our guy Chris Trapasso for coming. Make sure you follow CHRISTRAPASSO. Get him after him on the socials. And sir, have a good NFL draft, and most importantly, go have a good day now.
And I'm really excited about being able to watch the draft, like, and then also have the Bills game on. I got to set up like the multiple TV screens. I'm super pumped for that.
Oh, it's going to be an experience tomorrow night. Can you imagine like a Tage Thompson like goal, and then all of a sudden the Bills are trading up? The region might become unglued. God.
Yeah, that would be really fun, and we've never experienced it.
Hey, there's a first time for everything, so let's strap in for tomorrow.
I remember my first.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
at
Chris.
Rec Room, Chris. Come on through.